Hi guys, for my project I chose to do option 3, the continued statistics and education for mere mortals. One of the first activities we did was the Pearson product moment correlation. So this shows the correlation between two variables and is measured with R. Then we did the t-test for correlated samples design. So you can tell this is the same group of student data, but one is a pre-test and one is a post-test. So it's after some sort of treatment, training, something has been offered, and you are seeing if it was statistically significant or not. The next activity we did was a t-test for independent correlation design. So this is two different groups. If you look at the student column, you can see the different letters denote two different groups of students. So one is acting as like a control group, and the other receiving the treatment or training, whatever it is that you change the variable to see if the outcome is statistically significant. So if one group receives a training and the other does not, you compare their scores to see how well they performed against each other. The fourth activity that we did was the ANOVA, which is an analysis of variance. This is helpful when there are multiple variables at play. So for this activity we completed, there was three groups that we used, one with no graphics, one with static graphics, and one with animated graphics. So it's three different variables that you are measuring against each other. For my research articles, the first one I did was called The Association Between Peptide with Obesity and Insulin Resistance Markers in Lean and Obese Individuals. Basically, what they did is measured and tried to see if there was a correlation between certain hormones or factors of the body and in people that are lean versus obese people. So they did an even number of lean individuals and obese people of the same gender, same age, and studied these factors that they have using an independent samples t-test, and they found that the hormones were prevalent at statistically significant levels. So there were certain things that were higher in obese people, certain things that were higher in lean people, and this is helpful because they can help combat obesity by targeting these specific markers. The second research article was called Understanding Symmetry, Measuring the Contribution of Virtual and Concrete Models for Students with Different Spatial Abilities. So I found this one particularly interesting because it's about teaching and how students respond to different types of instruction. In this research article, the students were in a chemistry class trying to understand molecular symmetry, and they had two options, either a virtual model or a concrete model. So students were first divided into two groups based on their spatial ability levels. So they took an assessment to see what spatial abilities they have. So there was a high spatial ability group and a low spatial ability group. And then within those groups, one half was given the virtual model and one half was given the concrete model. And then they were given an assessment after the instruction. So they use a two-way variance analysis test for this. And the students with the virtual model performed better, and it was proven to be statistically significant. So this is relevant because if the virtual model or program that they're using is an expensive model or something like that, it is statistically significantly better so for students learning, so it would be worth it for a school to invest in it versus the concrete models. The third article was about exploring recreational screen time and social anxiety in adolescents. So it was trying to find a correlation between recreational screen time and the social anxiety, whether it was positive or negative. And they used an independent t-test and Pearson's R correlation, and they found a statistically significant positive correlation. So the more screen time that an adolescent had, the more social anxiety they had. And the fourth research article was comparing patient and clinician administered near point of convergence after concussions. So these like assessments that are given after concussions, the point of convergence are important for seeing how a patient recovers. Um, and they can be patient administered or clinician administered, just depending on what the situation is. So this research study used a paired samples t-test, and it was not statistically significant. So there is no preference for one over the other. This is interesting because we see more of the telehealth technology being used, and after COVID has happened and all, this is becoming a more common thing that you don't necessarily have a clinician in there with you, like where you are. So if a patient can administer something to themselves and it is just as effective as the clinician doing it, then that is relevant. All right, and that was all I had. Thank you for watching my presentation.